Good morning. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me live if you're here. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I hope you had a lovely Easter. We had a lovely relaxing time. Didn't go anywhere or do much. We went on nice walks and just chilled and ate good food and lots of chocolate. So I hope you enjoyed your Easter weekend too. Hi, Cecile. Thank you for joining me. So today I'm a little bit late, and apologies if YouTube had the wrong time on there. I've got a new laptop, and hence the timing is 1 hour off. It thinks on Greenwich Mean Time. So I did adjust the computer settings, but obviously YouTube hasn't adapted those to those as well. So I need to adjust that. Anyway, but I am a little bit late this morning, so I'm not going to be doing the oil of choice. I'm going to dive straight into our subject because I don't want to keep you all long this morning. And I know that your time is always precious, just as mine is. So really, the topic that I wanted to talk about is slightly different to the one I am going to talk about. And that is because something happened yesterday on our walk, and I just wanted to share my experiences because I think it's really valid for so many people. So yesterday, our topic is going to be about, dogs being reactive on leash as opposed to off leash. So when they're off leash, dogs can seem to handle greeting other dogs much, much better. But the moment you put them on leash, good morning. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Gunhild. Lovely to be. Thank you for being here. So when our dogs are off leash, they seem to cope better with other dogs. And the moment they go on leash, they really struggle. That's where you really often see the lunging, barking, snapping, growling, all that kind of behavior. And it's fascinating because over the years, so many of my clients come to me for that exact reason. But my dog is fine off leash. The moment I put them on the leash, it's like, meow. And yesterday during our walk, we took a new route. We went and found a new path. And it was along a little river, a lovely little path, but we didn't know, my husband and I were together with the two dogs, and we don't know the route, there was strict signs wherever we went, leash laws, leash laws. So we had our dogs on the 5-meter leashes. So Hubert, my husband, normally always walks in front with Charlie on the 5-meter leash, and I'm walking behind with Layla. And they can sort of do their own thing, and they've got plenty of space to move. And when we see other dogs approaching, our usual thing is we just say, let's let them pass. We gather up the leashes, ask our dogs to move over to the side as far as possible. Sometimes we sit there and wait for another dog to pass. Other times we just carry on walking if we can see that there's more than enough room for both dogs to pass comfortably, which was the case. It was a really, really wide trail, and we could just pass by in movement. And because there was two of us, so it was just one of us each had one dog, so it was pretty easy to do. And it was just fascinating because I was behind, and so I could watch my husband, I could watch Charlie, I could watch Layla, who was in front of me, and I could watch the other dogs and the other people. And as you can imagine, I've become really good at watching micro body language signals between dogs and people and between dogs. And it was just fascinating to me. I gathered again so much information because we had to pass 5 dogs in total. We were out for about an hour and a half. And in that hour and a half, we passed 5 dogs. And of those 5 dogs, only 2 didn't react. But I'll tell you about what they did, and that was different. So the three of them went full on barking, lunging, at the end of the lead, really going for it. And the other 2 were didn't do that. They didn't overreact in their in their seeing us as we passed, but certainly gave all sorts of signals that they weren't that comfortable. So yes, does anybody here out of the 3 of you, have you experienced that? Do you have dogs that are like that? So off leash, if you were to let your dog off leash and your dog were to rush up and to greet another dog, they might not find it 100% comfortable, but they probably would get on with it and then just move on. Or is your dog more reactive or more uncomfortable when they're on leash, when they're with you on leash? So if you're here, please type in the chat and let me know what your experience has been, either with your own dogs or with noticing other dogs. So Gunhild said yes, Barney off leash is fine and on leash he's reactive. So it's such a common thing. This is, really, really such a common thing. And over the years, as I said, I have noticed lots of different scenarios of where this happens and how this happens. And Cecile says it's hard to tell because I usually don't let them off leash as a group. But Bliss can be reactive on leash for sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously you've got a whole group. You don't want to let your dogs off, and this is what's part of it. Unfortunately, we have leash laws. A lot of countries have leash laws now wherever we go. Other things, there's so many things that could be contributing, but I'm going to name a few that come to mind of the contributions. But let me first explain to you what I observed yesterday and what we need to start looking at as those emotional, what I call conflicts going on underneath there. So the first dog that we were coming towards, we, gathered up our leashes, moved over to the side, as I said, and I saw it was a small little dog, a little mix breed dog. And he was quite far towards, he was also on a 5-meter leash, and he was quite far ahead of his people. And he stopped and he looked at us, and it was like, oh, surprise. And he started wagging his tail. Now, I know wagging tail can mean a lot of different things. A high wagging tail can mean a bit of like excitement or a little bit of arousal. A low wagging tail can be very appeasing. And a middle sort of relaxed, flaxy tail is generally quite a friendly thing. And this is what I saw in this little dog. It was a general, relaxed little thing, and his eyes were bright and his ears were up as he saw us approaching, and our two dogs. And at that moment, the parents of this dog ran up to their little dog and moved him to the side quickly. And there was a bench, and they sat down on the bench. And quickly, the dad brought out some cheesy things and was trying to feed the dog. And the dog was like trying to dodge the cheese so that he could see us. And, we had moved right off. And my dogs weren't even noticing him. They were just sniffing on the side, because I've trained myself and my husband to generally, we focus on our dogs. We focus on them. If they need support, we talk to them. So we don't focus on the other ones. But I was at this stage because I was really curious to read the body language. So I watched this couple as they frantically tried to quickly get their dog to the side, obviously anticipating some kind of reaction, which means their dog has likely done something in the past. And so they were anticipating his reaction to be bark, bark, bark. And so they quickly grabbed him off the side, sat him down on the bench. And as I said, one was trying to feed him cheese and the other one was trying to stroke him. And the little dog was sort of got tenser and tenser and tenser. And as we passed, he just, he let it all out and was, screaming, barking, lunging, going crazy. And the people were getting really upset. The gentleman I could see was actually quite frantic. At one stage, he grabbed the little dog's muzzle, and then the wife sort of moved his hand and said, no, no. And she was trying to stroke him, and we passed. And I just thought, bless these people. They were doing their best. Under the circumstances, they were doing the best that they could. They had anticipated this reaction. They were doing what they thought was right, perhaps what they'd been told to do, or that you could see the mother, the dog mum was really doing her best to soothe and calm the little dog. The dad was doing his best to distract the dog, things that they've learned to do. And I just see so much conflicting emotions going on for the dog and the person. And if you think about our dogs as being how they communicate, what they do, how they interpret situations and social situations, is a lot through the emotions around that situation. Yes, they read body language cues. Yes, they read facial expressions, etc., from the other dog. And they very well could be feeling uncomfortable because they don't have that social, skills yet or whatever. But what's more important is that all the conflicting emotions that are going on around that. So it was the little dog's emotions. He was excited at first. All of a sudden, his people got really upset and sort of were doing things that were for him rather scary at first, perhaps. Like, what are you doing? Why is the situation not a good thing? And then, possibly from the mum, she was like, really, oh, shame, let me help you, let me help you. And the dad was kind of shush, 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 shush. All these conflicting emotions going on for this little dog. And then to top it all, he's restrained. He can't, he's restrained physically with the harness and the leash, and physically with the person holding him back. Now all he wants to do is just get out of there, move, because that's what his body's telling him. I'm feeling trapped, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I need to move, and I can't. So many different things going on there for the little dog. And when often we hear about reactivity being a fear-based thing. And it certainly is in some circumstances, but I really think there's much more to it. I think there's a whole lot of emotions going on there, and it's the conflicting emotions that are going on. Now, let's say, for instance, that same scenario, and I also had a dog who was reactive, and so I was tense. I was tense with my dog on this side of the path, and so we were both gathering up our dogs and trying our best to get past each other and do that. Can you imagine even then, even more emotion pouring into that situation, all this negative energy pouring into the situation? No wonder it's so confusing for our dogs, and so conflicting. So that was one of the scenarios, and most of them pretty much happened exactly the same way. Sometimes the people reacted quite differently. Again, each time I saw, there was a little Shih Tzu, and when he first saw us, he ran to the end of the line, and like little dogs do, and they go this little happy, I want to come, I want to come, I want to come and say hello. And that's what he was doing. And by the time the people, got him to the side and whatever, and we passed, again, that, complete freak out. So going from a really friendly little cue, like, hello, can I come and say hello, to this really uncomfortable reaction in that sort of explosive. So hard for these little dogs. And as I say, when you can read body language and you can see all these conflicting signals, it's really tough for the little dogs, but also for the people. I get it. They're just doing the best they can under the circumstances. They don't know any better. And I too started off there, as I'm sure all of you here watching live, you also started there somewhere, where your dog started behaving differently in social situations that was making you feel uncomfortable. And you were trying all sorts of different things to help them. So Tracy says, Star did used to be reactive on leash and fine off. But a few years ago that changed, and she's on leash all the time now. Brilliant, Tracy. And I think, I know that Stars is not a young pup anymore. She's on an age, and certainly maturity can help. Certainly a lot of what we are seeing is younger dogs who are more prone to that frustration and not having the social skills, certainly. But I know that you've also done amazing, amazing work with your dogs. And so you are coming from a completely different place now. And this is what I believe is so important, that we realize that we have to come from a completely different place in order to support our dogs, not from that fearful, anxious approach ourselves. We need to be the one that's guiding that energy in that situation to help them to feel calm and relaxed and to know what to do. Cecile says, not easy to find the right balance between anticipation and stressing in advance, which causes the reactivity. Yes, Cecile, yes, it is damn difficult, because if we are used to our dogs and it's behaving in a certain way when they're around dogs, we are going to anticipate that, and straight away we are putting out the wrong signals there, and straight away our dogs are, from experience point of view, and that's where I see this reactivity really start to increase, because with each encounter of another dog, the same scenario repeats itself again and again and again. And so the dog starts to associate other dogs with that feeling before they even come. So as they're approaching, as they're getting, even further and further away now, the dog is starting to say, oh, there comes a dog. I know my people are going to freak out. This is going to be uncomfortable. I don't like this situation. And so they start reacting sooner and sooner, as opposed to what I was seeing in these dogs yesterday, the majority, which were actually quite happy and likely had we let the dogs meet, because I know that mine would have just sniffed and moved on. Likely, had we let them meet, it probably would have been absolutely fine. It probably would have been meet, meet, sniff, sniff. Perhaps the younger dogs might have been a little bit jumpy and bouncy, and we would have moved on, and that would have been it. And that would have been the end of the encounter, and the dogs would have actually experienced a good experience, a good social experience. They actually would have had that good social experience, which is so important. And that's what I really feel sorry for dogs these days and their people, because we don't have the same opportunities as we did before. Now, I'm not saying go and let your dogs off leash and just let them rush and go wild, because generally our dogs don't have, many dogs don't have the skills to go up politely to another dog, and certainly not if that other dog is on leash. You shouldn't be letting your dog off leash to approach them, because they're trapped on leash. They can't move properly to show correct body language. So it's really important that we find opportunities of how we can socialize our dogs. So we have to get our act together. That is a big, big one. We have to learn to understand our dogs, to read their body language, to know what they need. Do they need to move off? Do they need to keep moving forward, or do they need to sit and move off so that they can sit and watch another dog? What does your dog need? Find those ways to talk to your dog without feeling, all those feelings of emotions coming up. And that's where the workshop I've got coming up about polyvagal theory and mindset and emotions, we're going to go really deep into this, understanding our own reactions and our own triggers around our dog's behavior, and how we can start to be that guiding light for them. But on the other hand, teaching dog skills, and especially now in the last couple of years during COVID, if you've brought a dog home during this time, there's been very little or no contact with people and other dogs. And they're really struggling now. People are struggling from a social perspective, and so are our dogs. And it's not natural for them not to greet other dogs. But, we are so limited with the choice of how we allow them to greet and giving them those good experiences, that it's almost triggered me into thinking about doing more live workshops here where I live, and helping people to to find that, because one of the services I offer locally here is for people to go for walks with my dog. So we do social walks, and at the beginning, the walks take place with a huge amount of distance apart. My dogs are now both very relaxed around other dogs. It didn't used to be like that, but they really are good supporting teachers now, and they are really good at just sniffing and ignoring other dogs' behavior, allowing the other dog to approach, and then we walk parallel on lead, long line for a while, and then but we're always letting them greet, sniff, and then move away, sniff and move away. So they're getting information about that other dog constantly on that walk, until we feel that it's comfortable enough for them to let them off leash, and then they're allowed to mingle and react, interact in a way that's comfortable for them. And at 9 times out of 10, 99.9 times out of 10, it goes really well. Sometimes the other dogs are a little bit too rambunctious because they haven't learned social skills. And so we have to put them back on leash for a while, calm things down, and then put them together again. But it does help. It really, really works. So I know it's difficult, but you've got to find dogs that are comfortable, other dogs that are comfortable, that they can start meeting other dogs in different situations. And it's important, a lot of people say it's fine because we have dogs at home. It's not the same. If your dog's at home meeting in the family group, it's not the same as meeting strange dogs out of the family and different breeds. Some very often when you hear dogs say, oh, my dog is only reactive to a certain kind of breed of dog. That's possibly because they have had a bad experience with that breed, or they have a lack of social skills around that. They don't know how to read that dog with the pointy ears, or that dog's got floppy ears and they've got pointy ears, so they don't know how to read the different body language and get up close. So there's so many things. Lack of experience from the people, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of the emotions going on there, lack of what their dog needs. All of those things are really, really important. So what are the things we can do? As I said, we can help our dogs by improving our own skills, our observation skills, understanding our dog, and our own calming our own nervous systems to help to regulate their system, and meeting other dogs and being social. But I also think what's really, really important is that we learn. Sorry, I'm just missing some of the comments. Doing my best to focus on my emotional state. Yes, and it's not easy, is it, Cecile? It's not always easy. It's not always easy. So the other thing is really building that connection, building the connection so that our dogs really can look to us for that guiding support, and helping them through the situation. Like I say, if I can see or feel my dogs are uncomfortable, I talk to them. I talk them through the situation. I say, I've got this, we're okay. We're going to get past. That's fine. So that they can hear me. They can feel my emotion coming through the words. These words have energy that conveys the kind of emotion that I'm feeling, and that helps to settle them. Another thing that I like to teach, which I think works really, really well, is when you have a little dog who's very often frustrated because they just want to get that information from the other dog. They just want to sniff them and say hello. They want that contact. And that's very frustrating for them because they can't. Is just after you've passed, as that dog is walking, allow your dog to turn and go onto where the track of that other dog was. So if you're walking, let's say you're walking on opposite sides of the path, and you walk past and you get past the other dog, after this dog's moved on a couple of meters, allow your dog to go back onto the trail of this dog. Now, they don't have to follow them. They can go in the direction they came from, but allow them to sniff that air channel and on the ground where that dog was, because they're getting information about that other dog. And that's what they want. That's for me, 99% of why the dog wants to go and say hello to that dog in the first place is they want the olfactory information. It's like, this is the main thing for dogs, is sniffing and getting information via their olfactory system. So if you can, once you've passed that dog, go let your dog sniff where that other dog was. Let them sniff their trail where they were, because they're going to get some kind of information from them. And just that alone can be very satisfying for the dog and take away some of that real frustration that dogs see. And this is exactly what I saw happen on one of the people that we passed yesterday on our walk. Was exactly that. The dogs kind of looked at each other. They kept their distance. They walked past, and both of them, sort of a few meters on, my dogs crossed over to the other track, and that dog crossed over to where we had been, and both of them sniffed there, and then both of them sort of looked up, looked at each other, and then walked on and continued to walk with us, their people. And that's, to me, it's such a valuable tool. It's such an easy thing to do, and sometimes really, really helps dogs. So let your dog double back and smell the track of the other dog. It can give them a huge amount of information. And for me, it's like that's your reward for holding it together if you can until we pass this dog, and then you can go and sniff his trail where he was. So that's one of the tips that I can really recommend. And the other thing I just wanted to say was there were the two dogs that didn't react. So let me share with you what I observed about the two dogs that didn't react in this situation. The one was off lead when he was coming around the corner, and his person was quite a few meters back. It was an elderly gentleman, and he was just looking at nature and smiling. And, I could see he was thoroughly enjoying his walk, and his dog was quite far ahead, and she had spotted us, and he obviously hadn't yet. And she just stopped and she lifted one little paw and she looked up, which was, an appeasing kind of signal. And then she looked back at her person and she waited for him. And he eventually caught up to her, and then he realized she had stopped. He looked up and saw us coming and said, "Oh, there's dogs there," saw that we were on the lead, so politely put her on the lead. And he had quite a short lead. It wasn't a long lead. And she literally, took him, she directed him really off the side of the path, and he went with her, which I thought was beautiful. She was saying, thank you for putting me on the lead. I feel like I need some space. And he kind of, she went in that direction and he went with her, which I thought was beautiful. And he smiled and he said to her, "It's okay, honey. We're fine. Those dogs are fine." Just like I said, he was talking to her. And she made a really big, sort of um, arc around us like this. And he spoke to her the whole time. And she was a little bit unsure, but he was going with her. You know what I mean? He was like acknowledging her and going with her. And it was beautiful to watch because he was in tune with her. He was in a happy, good mood. He greeted us, "Good morning, how are you?" And sort of went past us. And that was the one that didn't react. Now, it could have been because she had this little appeasing signal and she looked a little bit unsure. So it could have been if we were too close or our dogs had gone running up to her that she wouldn't have been comfortable. But he, as I say, her person really helped her through that situation nicely, and she guided him as to what she needed, and he was listening. The other one, it was somebody who had their little dog on a retractable leash, and they were so busy in conversation. It was a young couple, and they were so busy in conversation that they didn't even notice us, and they didn't even notice what their dog was doing. And he stopped, he saw us, he looked at his people, they were giving him zero information. And so he just pulled on his little retractable leash and went right off and started doing sniffing activities. He peed against a tree, he looked at my dogs, he sniffed some more, he looked at my dogs. So he was actually communicating beautifully with them, saying, "I need space, I'm doing calming signals." But his people hadn't noticed a thing. And so he was able to, again, navigate past us very without anything happening. And I do believe that he was uncomfortable as well. But because his people, there was no emotion coming from his people there because they hadn't even noticed what was going on. And B, because he was on his retractable leash, and not that I like these things, but at least he had room to move off himself and, to show body language that he was comfortable for him from a distance that he was comfortable with. So it was fascinating that those were the two instances that there was no overreactivity at all from those two dogs. And like I said, it was a mixture of the dog being able to express what they wanted to freely, and no intervention from the people, no negative intervention from the people, even though, like I said, I don't really want to call it negative, but from the dog's point of view, it was conflicting information that he was getting from his people. Where in these two instances, there was either zero communication or the person was really connected to them and knew what they wanted. So those were my observations. Those were my takeaways that I wanted to share with you. Any further last comments about that? What do you think, guys? What do you believe? How do we help our, our dogs going forward with social skills? How do they learn how to be around other dogs? That is an important thing. Do they have play dates? Do they have some kind of contact with other dogs? Are you teaching them, guiding them to show them what skills to do or what to show? For instance, that's the way I did it with Charlie. Over the years, I've showed him how to move off, just like this little dog and his person did. She said, "I need my space. I need to move off." And that's what I did with Charlie. I would move off and I would say, "Let's sniff here." And I would put some treats down. And it wasn't necessarily just to distract him. I was showing him what I wanted him to do. I was showing him that I want you to move off and sniff off the path here, because that's the good, clear communication that you're giving to the other dog oncoming, that you mean no threat. And now he's really good at that. When I see other dogs coming and he is off leash, because there are places where we do have off leash areas. And if I see other dogs coming towards him, his normal behavior is or used to be, to rush up to other dogs. And now I just say, let's move to the side, go sniff. And he knows what that means. And he does that. He looks up at the other dog. And so he sniffs and starts to do some zigzagging as the other dogs are approaching. And so it's a much better, more relaxed greeting when when the other dog does finally sort of arrive at the spot there. Even if the other dog approaches really quickly, Charlie is really good now about going down, sniffing in the ground, and showing calming signals from afar and from close. So sometimes we need to teach our dogs those skills. We need to find ways to teach them what to do, or better still, to have a really good doggy teacher. So that, I know they're hard to find, but look around and find those good, well balanced dogs that you can go on walks with, that you can watch body language, observe the other dog's body language, observe your dog's body language, and see what's going on, so that we can support them better. So thank you very much. It's half an hour. Talk. Thank you so much for being on here with me. I hope it's helped you a little bit to understand. It's not easy, people. I get it. It's not easy from our side. It's not easy from our dog side. But the more we can help to support them and find things to support them with, the better. So thank you very much for joining me. Thanks, ladies. Really appreciate it. Go out and have a wonderful day. Observe your dogs, breathe, get connected, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.